Hello Hyperspace fans. In this video we start in the lower district, over by Palpatine's lair, where we get ready to talk about how Dooku and Palpatine will engage in the Battle of Coruscant, and to secure Palpatine's capture. While Palpatine waits to send the message to the Count of Sereno, he waits eagerly in his chair in his lair in the lower district. But little did Dooku know, Palpatine had other minds. He would actually prefer Anakin to strike Dooku down, but that is undetermined yet. However, Dooku can sense the feeling and the tide shifting in the Force. Dooku gets the message to come to Palpatine's lair in the industrial sector of Coruscant. He lands and is greeted by his master. However, both of them can sense each other's uneasiness. Sidious lured Dooku back, and instead of them actually talking about the plans for the invasion of Coruscant, Sidious would rather jump things into motion a little bit quicker. So without a second's notice, Sidious ignites his lightsaber and slashes at the Dark Lord. Dooku tries to defend himself, but Palpatine is way too strong for Dooku to fend off by himself, let alone at all. As news of Dooku's death reached the Republic Senate, the Senate immediately calls for an emergency session to try to create a ceasefire or a peace treaty with the CIS. Palpatine, completely fuming and furious about this decision, he tries to ploy each and every one of his loyalists to either side against him and die, or to side with him and still continue to prolong the war. Now, all of the pacifists within the Republic, like the delegation of 2,000, really think that the Chancellor is starting to abuse his powers and prolong the war. Dooku is gone. Why continue the fighting? Palpatine needs the delegation of 2,000 to be silenced in order for him to fulfill his plan and execute Order 66 when the time comes, knowing that if the war is ended, there will be no use of the clones, and his power will officially have been stripped from him. Members of the delegation of 2,000 try to make a motion to the floor to allow an end to the Clone War. Within minutes of the vote starting, the ground starts to rumble and shake, and the alarms over Coruscant start to blare, meaning that the attack on Coruscant has officially begun. Now, Palpatine didn't actually plan on the attack. When he killed Dooku, he planned on it being cancelled, but I guess they had their own mind. In this timeline, Ahsoka and Anakin are the ones who start the space battle, given the fact that Ahsoka being made a Jedi Knight after her name was being cleared from the temple bombing, Anakin was made a Jedi Master, but this wasn't known to anybody except his wife Padme. Since Anakin was a Jedi Master, he had access to the restriction section, so he didn't need to lure and try to find another way through the dark side to save Padme from dying during childbirth, so Sidious really had no leverage over Anakin at this point. As the battle over Coruscant finally was starting to die down and the droids were starting to retreat due to the overwhelming and sheer force of the Republic's forces, something else had begun to happen. None of the Jedi knew it yet, but the clones were starting to act a little weird. Now, this didn't raise any alarms, but Anakin remembered what happened to Tup, and he was not wanting to have that happen again. So Palpatine calls Anakin back to his quarters, inside the Chancellor's office, to have a little talk with him, but Anakin just kind of brushes it off. He can't wait to go and see Padme. He hasn't seen her in a while, so it'd be a nice reunion for him. Palpatine insists that Anakin sit down and join him. And things start off great, but they take a turn for the worst when Palpatine asks Anakin if he had ever heard of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Anakin, confused, starts to think, how would Palpatine know anything about a Sith lore? So he says no, just to see where it goes. Palpatine explains that he doesn't think he would, because it's not a story the Jedi would tell him, and then goes on to say that he knew how to save people from death. This was a coincidence because just the night before, Anakin had had dreams, or nightmares more like, about Padme dying during childbirth. Anakin, being bothered by what Palpatine had to say, he finds the one person that he can trust. Now, Ahsoka had ideas that she had thinks that she knew that Anakin and Padme were married, but she never really said anything because it really wasn't her business to say anything, and Anakin probably would have just shrugged it off anyways. Now, Anakin confides with Ahsoka and tells her that Palpatine is probably the Sith Lord. He can't be 100% sure, but She and him both think that it's a good idea to go and tell the High Council, so they make their way to the Jedi Temple. The two make their way to the Jedi Temple and land in the Temple hangar bay, where they are greeted by Mace Windu and Obi-Wan. The Council deems it necessary to try to make an arrest on the Chancellor, but doing it by the book, as allowing no funny business could happen. So the Masters walk in, Agent Kolar, CAC-10, Kit Fisto, and Mace Windu, with Ahsoka and Anakin following behind. They all engage, but Palpatine hits a recording, but makes sure that the audio is not able to, and makes sure that his lightsaber does not appear in the hologram, so it just looks like the Jedi are attacking Palpatine, unprovoked, and an unarmed man. With word getting around the Senate that the Jedi attempted to overthrow the Republic and assassinate the Chancellor, Anakin and Ahsoka are the only two that are captured alive. Now, Palpatine didn't really have plans to keep Ahsoka alive, but knew that if he did, he could use that against Anakin later, to try to recruit him and lure him closer and closer to the dark side. Padme comes down to speak with Anakin and Ahsoka to try to see what in the world happened inside the Chancellor's quarters inside the Senate building, so that way she can make her case to the courts. With Anakin and Ahsoka locked in jail, Palpatine utilizes this time, before he ends up talking to the Senate, to start his plan to implement Order 66. He doesn't get in contact with them until afterwards, though, because if he does it before he talks to the Senate, it'll look like he's just trying to overthrow them to gain more power for himself. And with a delegation of 2,000, including senators like Padme Amidala, Bail Organa, and Mon Mothma, leading the caucus against Palpatine, it will never stand with an actual vote. Palpatine puts Captain Tarkin in charge of the courts while he prepares to address the Senate about the Jedi's so-called betrayal. Now, Captain Tarkin, being extremely loyal to the Chancellor, is willing to do whatever he asks, given the fact that he knows that Palpatine wishes to reform the government of the Republic and turn it into a galactic empire, one with military strength, and overpowering its citizens to make sure that they stay in line. The Senate, by an overstaggering vote, agree that the Jedi were out of line in this, and give Palpatine even more power to make more decisions, like executing the Jedi, using their own army. Now, this was warned by the report on Fives, but it never actually made its way into the Senate, because Palpatine hid it from them, so they have no idea what was going to happen. A few of the Jedi were actually amidst the crowd of the senators, and were instantly taken away by the Coruscant Guard. The three words send chills down Palpatine's spine, as he has been waiting for this for almost 2 decades. The three words, execute Order 66. And a sudden shift is felt in the Force by not only the Jedi, but also by Palpatine. As a wave of darkness shrouds the galaxy, Palpatine feels more thrilled than he ever has. Palpatine gives Anakin one last chance to either join him or die with the rest of the Jedi being purged all across the galaxy. Now, Anakin doesn't take the decision lightly, and in fact, actually stands up for himself by pulling Palpatine's blade from his pocket and into his hand. He ignites it, and Palpatine electrocutes Anakin with the biggest force lightning. Anakin is knocked unconscious. As Anakin wakes up, he's awoken by Rex, and Palpatine starts to walk down the hallway where Anakin is being held. Rex stands to attention as the Emperor is coming closer and closer, and Palpatine mutters the few words that he wants to show Skywalker something, so shuts off the ray shield and tells Rex to leave us. Rex obliges and walks out of the room, and behind Palpatine, or Darth Sidious, is Anakin's former pupil, Ahsoka Tano. If Palpatine couldn't have the Chosen One, then he would die with the remaining Jedi. Ahsoka, being told by Palpatine to execute Anakin, do not hesitate, show no mercy, prove you are loyal to the Empire, and rise amongst the ranks. Ahsoka ignites her red lightsaber. This is her test to prove her worthiness. Anakin hasn't had to deal with something like this since they were on the Dark Moon, and they met with the son and daughter. And Anakin felt his true power. Now, Anakin, knowing Ahsoka for the last 4 years, didn't want to actually end up killing her, but he was fighting for his life just as she was fighting for hers. Anakin tries to convince Ahsoka one last time to do not embrace the darkness, but she's not listening. She can't listen because it's not even really her. A part of Ahsoka that remains in the light is a very small fraction of who Ahsoka now is, a puppet for the Emperor. Anakin's starting to feel a little tired from his engagement with Ahsoka. He sees little to no hope in trying to save her. Ahsoka, being one step ahead, sees that Anakin is starting to get faulty, so she makes one move, with her one blade swinging down to have Anakin block the lower, and she swings up for the top, slicing open Anakin's chest as he makes one last gasp before he collapses to the ground. The Emperor is pleased with this. And with that, that concludes our video of what if Ahsoka was Sidious's apprentice instead of Anakin. Now, in my opinion, there are multiple ways that this could have ended, but I've kind of lost a little bit of idea onto how I wanted it to end, so I thought the easiest way would be to keep Ahsoka and Anakin alive while the rest of the Jedi Order is being purged from the clones in Order 66. And eventually, Ahsoka getting the better hand of Anakin as he starts to wear himself down, focusing on not only his conscience, but trying to keep Ahsoka in the light, or at least bring her back into the light, like he did on Mortis. But this time, obviously, he couldn't succeed. But again, thank you guys for watching this video, and if you could, please leave a like and subscribe and comment down below to what video you guys want me to post next. I love taking ideas from you guys and making them a reality. So, yeah. Anyways, with all of that being said, may the Force be with you, and Hyperspace out.